Hi, it's Chris, and welcome back to the seat. What do we have on the show today? Today I'm going to teach you how to flash a Raspberry Pi or set up a Raspberry Pi to flash a Terrible Fire 4060. While I eat Australian Cheez-Its. They're called Twisties. And they're like Cheez-Its without all the carcinogens that Americans kill us with. And since they're from Australia, I opened the bag from the bottom. Got my Ramsey 07s in from Anal Logic. Mr. Raj was kind enough to F me right in the hole on shipping. Charged me twice. $63 US to ship 2 chips in a £5 bag. That's nice. Thanks, Raj. As much as I buy from you, you figured you'd give a brother a break. As you saw on my effing with the 3000 board playing around this thing, Terrible Fire 4060. EHIDE device, magic, all that's in there. But I can't use it on my 3000 tower without doing the interrupt 2 mod, and I'm extremely lazy, and I don't want to tear that thing all apart because it's working to do the interrupt 2 mod. It's a wire between like CPU pin 86 and CIA U350 pin 20 or something like that. I gotta look it up. My brain just it needs defrag. So in my hand I have a Raspberry Pi 02W. It needs a 13 pin header. Well, 26, 13 2 rows. You don't need the whole GPIO. Mr. Hertel has a whole write-up on his website. If you want, I'll pull it up, but I'm just going to do it this way. So you're going to need a blank card. I have one left. And you're going to need a card reader like this. Or have one in your machine that works. I'm going to go ahead and launch Raspberry Pi Imager. Choose a device. Whoops. We're going to choose a device. We're going to choose Raspberry Pi 02W. Choose OS. You don't want the scroll down one. Go to Raspberry Pi OS Other. And then choose the 64-bit Lite. And then choose storage, your card. And we want to edit the settings. And then here, you're going to see it's got some crap. These are from my previous configs. If you leave it Raspberry, or the username Pi and the password Raspberry, which is default, SSH will not start. So this is fine. Pi, I'm going to make mine Pi Miga. Because, you know, whoops. Let's just totally mess it up. P-I-M-I-G-A. Perfect. My Wi-Fi is already set. You can set yours, your country, Wi-Fi zone, and your time zone. Click on Services and enable SSH. Use password off. Again, if you're using Pi and its stock password of Raspberry, the SSH daemon will not launch at startup. Options, you can play a sound, eject media when finished. Great, you don't have to eject media. Hit save and then say yes and yes. Type your password and it will start writing the image. It'll take about 3 minutes depending on your internet speed, maybe 20. I have really fast internet, so it'll download like nothing. It's already writing, so there we go. While that is thinking about doing its thing, I need to put a header on this thing. So you want your pins to be facing like this way, up. So don't put your pins on the bottom, put them on the top, and face the card towards you with the USBs and the HDMI facing you. Now this is the micro HDMI, but we're not going to need that. Now you're not doing a GPIO block because this card has the block, so you need the pins, okay? So there's 2 types of Raspberry Pi pins. There's the block kind, right? And there's the pin kind. We want the pin kind. You also do not need all of them. You only need 26, so 2 rows of 13. There we go. So 13, and you can verify that by sticking this in your Terrible Fire and making sure you're the same. Boop. And then solder that in short side to your Pi to the top left. So you want the pins 1 through 13 to be your targets. So it'll look like this. Now, with your header soldered on there, so there's our header all soldered on. Remember, 13 pins. That's how she's going to look near the USB card side. On your Terrible Fire, you have to have a jumper here, closed, called Pi Power. And you're thinking you're going to stick it on longwise. You're not. You're going to stick it on like you thought you're going to stick it on. Just like this. And I guess looking at this now, if you had a full GPIO pin, it would fit. I was wondering about that cap right there. So this is how it'll look. I know it's green and it totally clashes with the purple, but it's just for flashing. The idea is when this is in the Amiga and turned on, it'll power the Pi, hence Pi power. We will then be able to SSH into it after we sniff the IP address on my local LAN, copy firmware, and execute the code. There's some build stuff you got to do on the Linux side of the Pi. So here's the files. Now, what I do, without ejecting my card, is there's bootfs and rootfs. We're going to go to rootfs, and then we're going to go to home, Pi, and I'm going to make a directory, call it TF4060 lowercase. Inside of that, I'm going to put all this crap. Boof. That way I have the firmware. I can call it from there. Our next step is going to be to eject these cards. Now it gets plugged into the Raspberry Pi right here. You can plug it in before you put your card on if you got dill pickles like me. It's going to be some Linux commands. It's all listed on the Godfathers blog. If you haven't checked out John's site, incredible wealth of knowledge. That's why I always call him the Godfather. You get it? Okay. I'm going to pull out the 3640, that Mr. T edition was in here originally. Set that aside. In its place, I'm going to put the TF4060 as before. Now in my previous video, I had the, make sure that's in there all the way. It's a little bit tougher with the Pi on the end, just to make sure you're seated properly. Now in the previous video, when I did this, I had a 4091 in here, and I was able to get it booting with a single hard drive of smaller size. I also had an issue with the not the RP20, the Zulu 1.1, the blue one. So I swapped it out with the 3000 UX's RP2040. Termination is on. I'm not going to hook this up at this time. I am going to hook the Amiga up. She's a big girl. Okay, so with this on, or with this hooked up, I have a surge protector right here. I'm going to put Mr. Hertel's website on the right monitor, and at the very top, setting up a SD card for the TF4060 Raspberry Pi. Normally I would do it on Linux here, but I'm going to be using its monitor. This does have the Cybervision 64, so it has amber pass-through and VGA 31 kilohertz. So we're sitting at our Kickstart screen. The Raspberry Pi Lite has booted. I'm going to zoom you on in here to two things. I'm going to do a network sniff with, I have an advanced IP scanner. That's going to give me the IP address of the Pi. Remember, we stuck it on my Wi-Fi. Mr. Not the Matsy is fixing the Piccolo for me. He needed to get some code off of it, and one of the Cirrus Logic chips had a pin bent in, and he's checking that out. And I just told Not the Matsy that you made today's interrupter of the day. Sorry for being so close up there. Alright, let me find this damn Raspberry Pi. 115 Raspberry Pi. So we're going to open up a SSH. So SSH Pi at 192.168.1.115. Yes. Yes. Pi-Miga is what I made its password. There we go. So I'm sitting at the Pi directory, and I have a TF4060 subdirectory that I copied the firmware to. Now, if you scroll down past here, there's some Linux crap you got to do, and the reason why I have it is we got to update the OS. I don't really need to worry about that, but it's the latest one from them, but we'll do it. Get the latest packages, if there's any, because I just burned this yesterday. So our next thing is we're going to do apt upgrade. These are normal Linux steps that you have to partake in whenever you're working with Linux. You want to make sure you got the latest packages. I need 95 megs of additional crap. While that's going on, takes some time. We're going to reboot. Now we got to install some libraries and CMake. So we can just copy these, and once this is done, we can paste them to download the prerequisites. Alright, with that done, we're going to paste the next line. That's grabbing the libraries. Build Essentials already the latest. libUSB and FTDIL is being installed. They're just prerequisites for your build. We actually got to install CMake. Just right click, paste, and then now we're going to install Git and CMake. Once this is done, I don't have to do that again. But I already made the TF4060 directory, and then we're going to clone 2 repositories. CD TF4060, which was the directory I made with the firmware on it already. Now I'm going to paste these Git clones. So that's formu flash, cloning into formu flash, and then we're going to copy the repository. Alright, I'm going to make both of those. You only got to do this once. Now we're going to CD wiring pi. We'll probably have to make that sudo / reinstall and ignore any message that pops up. Okay. Is not installed. Wiring pi ARM HF is not installed. Ignore the message. Alright. We got 2 builds we got to do and makes for the SCSI prog, Git clone, and the formu flash. It said ignore any error messages. Let's go back. CD to the SCSI program. Make their build. CD build. Oops, CD build. Oh my god. And then we'll do CMake. And then make. Ignore things that look like warning and errors. Weird code is what it says. We're almost done. Alright, so that's done. Now we gotta go up twice. And then we're gonna FOMU flash. We're gonna sudo make that bad boy. I'm just right here on the directions. Again, ignore things that look like warnings or errors. Now we have all the software available, so let's test it. Alright, so now we're going to copy this line, which should read the CPLD on the card. It's listing something. CPLD, nice. So now we're going to go to FOMO Flash, read. This will reset the FPGA and the Amiga. Sorry, my screensaver kicked in. Copy. Paste. Resetting FPGA. Amiga just low hide. Okay. Unpack the zip with. Unpack the file with unzip. Flash the CPLD with TF4060 star.jed. So let me look in here at the JED. I have this. Okay, so I have this TF4060 R5 bustop.jed. So we're gonna do this. Copy. Paste. Programming doohickey. So it's only 2 lines once you get the software installed. Okay, success verified. Perfect. Sometimes it will fail with a fuse. Flash the FPGA with TF4060 R5 RAM.bit. Okay, so we're going to do this. Whoops. copy this one, paste this one, CPLD. That was super fast. And reset the Amiga with this. Resetting. Okie dokie. So that's that. That's it. If you want to install a very insecure Samba server so you can copy files on the Windows directly to the Pi. Yeah, Nano. Good job, John. I hate Vi. That way I can just browse this from Windows in the future and copy files over. I can even leave the Pi on there. It doesn't hurt anything. Let's edit that config file. And we're just going to paste. Paste. There we go. Control X. Yes. Enter. Sudo reboot. Alright, we're going to reboot it. 115 will come back up in a minute. And we're done. Now, I can browse to a folder here in a second. We'll say 192.168.1. What is it? 115? Here it is, Raspberry Pi right there. Raspberry Pi. And TF4060. So there you go. You can say anonymous user and you're in. So there's the files, there's the ROMs, and thank you, Mr. Hertel, the Godfather, for that. So we're done with the Raspberry Pi programming of the Terrible Fire 4060. Let's flip her back over to VGA. It's booting. I'm going to turn this off just so I can disconnect the HDMI cable here. I don't need to leave the Pi on there, but it's not hurting anything, okay? It doesn't bother me. Nothing has changed. I'm just plugging this in. And this normally would sit here on the rail. I'm going to leave it hang. I am going to grab a keyboard. So keyboard and mouse are now hooked up. And if this works, I'll put this here. How will it? If this works, this light here will start working and the Amiga will boot. Now, my hard drive image and all that stuff, I'm going to make a copy of it real quick. Whoops. Because you never know. I know I made a copy of it before. But I'm going to make another copy because I think it's a second. So I have two backups of the card I've already backed up. Pull this out, put this in, and let's hit the button. Terrible Fire 4060. Same as before without the 4091. Fixed firmware for the 3000 tower. Super DMAC 02. I almost forgot. Let's pull this girl off. Ramsey 04. You're coming out because we're going in with the Anal Logic 07s. And they are listed as Amiga Tech. I'll put that there. Let it up. Ramsey 07. Buster 11. Anal Logic. Super DMAC 02. We're going to try it with the 02. Ramsey 07 and the Super Buster 11. Super DMAC 02 at the moment, but we can easily swap that out because the drive tray's on it. So, holy Christmas cards. Is it going to work and not error out? Takes a second because she's RTG. She does take a minute to get her bearings in order. Look at that. SJ, John, everybody. You guys are flipping awesome. I didn't even need to use my Super DMAC 04. Oh my god, it works fine. Holy Christmas. Holy Christmas. Holy Christmas. Native, Scuzzy, Super DMAC 02. I didn't even do the 04 yet. Ramsey 07. Freaking dog turds. That is amazing. Happy, happy, happy. Joy, joy, joy. CPU 6860 MMU. Remember, she's a LC in this chick. And that's fine. Rev 4. Awesome. Benchmarks. AIBB. Holy crap. Now I can do a beach ball, but she's CPU math only, so she's going to be just 60 to 60 raw horsepower speed. Oh my god. Thank you guys so much.
Mortimer, we're back.
From an Amiga dude to Amiga dudes. Amazing job. I don't know what you did, how you hacked it, or some science and math. Look at that. Look at that. Internal speakers, so nice. Do we still have floppy drive access? We do. Alright, let's reset her. How does she do on a warm reset? SCSI Inquire, CD-ROM, hard drive light. And she's a flickering. Cool, and she just works. Holy crap, and for the first time in US history, it says that I'm a 3000 freaking tower. A2065 Ethernet, Phase 5 CyberVision 64, unknown product, 256 meg. That's the Live 2 board. This is not the extended version, but cool. Lost my mouse. Well, I have it, but the cursor disappeared. It does that sometimes. I'm going to reboot one more time. As I make this video, Mr. Hertel, thank you, Godfather, for this wonderful firmware. Everything works perfect. Thank you, Godfather, for this wonderful firmware. Everything works perfect.
Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me.
Now, the video you saw whenever, when I was testing unsupported hardware on the 3000 tower, was over 3 months ago from this filming. And you're probably watching this maybe in 2025. But, yeah, it's not 2025. We're getting ready to have Thanksgiving. And, yeah. So I'm going to have a video on cooking Thanksgiving dinner because I was requested. Now, that probably won't be out till 2025 also. But you asked, you shall receive. So the SMB is working on it. I could even get to it from the Amiga. Stash stuff to the Raspberry Pi card home directory. It's got 32 gigs of storage. I can SMB mount it. So that's it for the Terrible Fire 4060 on the 3000 tower with native SCSI support. The Hertel Godfather said 4000 tower support is currently broken. But the 3000 tower support is now there for sure. Amiga stuff is a pain. Amiga is a pain to do stuff for. So I sent him a photo and he said, ta-da! And I said, well, sir, I thank you immensely. Super DMAC, Super DMAC does not work with the 4060. Terrible Fire and Mike are in contact. So that's it. That's all we got for this episode. I'm going to put this girl back together and start enjoying it some more. Thank you to the Terrible Fire team, Stephen Leary, Mr. Hertel, and everybody that's involved in making these firmwares. And I greatly, humbly thank you for it, and many others will too. So I hope that helps you learn how to flash the dude with a Raspberry Pi. A little bit of complex initial setup. Make sure you type your password correctly so your Wi-Fi dude shows up in your network. And you can copy paste everything from Mr. Hertel's website, hertel.nu. Links in the description below. So that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.
What do you know from funny, you bastard?